for the delay. I think I need to sit so that I can see what I'm going to speak. Because I need to I thought, it's done in the reverse way. In the citation, it said that, I was the one who started the university in 1981, and I was president for 21 years. I think this is one of the longest CEO of a university. So I thought that since most of you are engineers, at least by training, I think you would be more interested in the entrepreneurship rather than just the university itself. So I thought I want to use this lecture to demonstrate how I use entrepreneurship principle to develop the university. Now, the factor that led to the founding of the university was a restructuring of the economy of Singapore in the late 70s. It had to transit from a low-cost, labor-intensive economy to one which depends on high-value added industries. Technically trained people in large numbers were needed. To fulfill this requirement, the government decided a technological university should be set up, and thereby the birth of NTU in 1981. It had the mission to produce good, practice-oriented engineers. The initial disciplines were in engineering because planners recognized the wealth creation contribution of engineers. You see, the Singapore government places great value in engineers and think that the engineers are the one that in fact create wealth. The target was to have an annual output of 1,500 engineers, which were large in the context of Singapore's total population of 2.5 million at that time. So with 2.5 million, we have to produce 1,500 engineers per year. Other disciplines were added as the university developed, such as accounting, business, media, communication, education, and biological sciences. The students' enrollment grew very rapidly from 500 in 1982. As I said, it was established in 1981. We could only take in students in 1982. The first batch was 500, and then it grew to 25,000 at the end of 2002 when I retired as president. So within 20 years, it grew 50 times, which I think all institutions will be very proud of. I was fortunate to have the opportunity to start the university from scratch. Being literally the first employee of the university, I could set the policy and direction according to my vision. Having worked previously in the University of Singapore for more than 10 years, I knew the problems of a traditional university. NTU, being a startup university, had to be more entrepreneurial in order to compete with other older universities. Many of our policies were a great departure from traditional universities. The fact that NTU had progressed rapidly in the 20 years proves that the entrepreneurial decisions were justified. I shall give you more details later. Running a university is actually not very different from running a company. The key considerations are the optimum use of, how do I put this? The key considerations are the optimum use of personnel, proper financing and budgeting, efficient operation, either in production or operating services, and sound management policies. These are similar for both type of organizations. The only major difference between the two is, for a company, the performance indicator is the return to shareholders from profits, while for university it is the good education provided for its students. So the common components are the same, except the different KPIs. These days we hear a lot on the achievements of entrepreneurs. The publicity is understandable because for most countries, the majority of the workforce is employed in small and medium enterprises or SMEs. However, we have to take note of the fact that in Singapore and in most countries, while the SMEs form 90% of all companies, they contribute less than half towards the GDP. We therefore cannot ignore the contributions of the larger companies as well as the public institutions. With the world changing so rapidly, there is the urgent need for business corporations to restructure to remain competitive. Even the public institutions are not spared if they want to remain relevant. As a result, there is the worry whether large corporations and institutions are nimble enough to respond to this new challenge. Many management gurus had addressed the issue as early as 1990s. Well, some of the well-known ones are Michael Hammer and James Chappie in their paper Re-Engineering the Corporation, and David Osborne and Ted Gabler Reinventing Government. One is, of course, is the private sector. The other one is the public institution. They say that what is going to be important and relevant in the future is they have to practice entrepreneurial management. The central theme seems to suggest that organizations have to be innovative. To do so in large organizations with ingrained structure, there's a need for entrepreneurial management. We tend to think that entrepreneurial activities are risk-taking acts and entrepreneurs are solely businessmen. The true meaning of the word entrepreneur is in fact far broader. It was used by the French economist, as we say, in the 1980s. He wrote, the entrepreneur shifts economic resources out of an area of lower value into an area of higher productivity and greater yield. So in fact, it's not what we normally think of being a sort of devil and then trying all sorts of things. Careful studies on entrepreneurs have in fact shown that they are not risk takers but opportunity seekers. They try to define the risks they have to take and to minimize them as much as possible. The question is whether a structured organization can have a culture to promote entrepreneurship. The view of Drucker, the famous thinker, a famous management guru, was that almost anyone can be an entrepreneur if the organization is structured to encourage entrepreneurship. Conversely, almost any entrepreneur can turn into a bureaucrat if the organization is structured to encourage bureaucratic behaviors. In other words, he believed that the people who work in organizations are not a problem. The systems in which they work are the problem. It is not what they do, but how they operate. An entrepreneurial organization has the following characteristics. I have to outline them. It measures the performance of its managers, focusing on outcomes, not inputs. Number two, it is driven by goals and not by rules and regulations. While rules are necessary for big organizations, they are to be interpreted by the spirit rather than the letters. Thirdly, it prevents problems before they emerge. Four, it decentralizes authority and encourages participatory management. Teamwork is the term. Five, it is a customer-sensitive organization. So you see for yourself, are you one of those in the organization that are entrepreneur? I wish to comment further on B, which is driven by goals and not by rules and regulations, which is in short, it's bending the rules. Bending the rules is actually hard work. It involves exercising creativity within the boundaries set by the rules and regulations. It demands discipline and restraint, along with the flexibility and imagination. Finally, it's a matter of faith that the interpretation benefits the organization in the long run. It is well known that entrepreneurs in small organizations set their own goals. On the other hand, managers of large organizations have to work within the prescribed objectives of the organization. Other than this distinction, the makeup of the two are similar, full of energy and enthusiasm to create values and thinking out of the box. The fact that I have to create NTU from scratch, I am an entrepreneur in my own way. I have to be entrepreneurial in the management of the university because I face stiff competition from a much older and more established university, which is the NUS, National University of Singapore, particularly in the first 10 years. I hope to illustrate on how we apply entrepreneurial management to NTU according to the principles as enumerated by the various management gurus. The first one is budgeting. NTU, like all public institutions, had to manage with a yearly budget. Our task is to maximize benefits in line with the mission of the university. In the early years, we have to budget according to line items and sought direct approval from the Ministry of Finance. I remember I had to appear personally before the head of finance, Ministry of Finance, to answer all the queries. Budgeting by line items was rigid and inefficient. Our managers had the tendency to spend every cent in the line items for fear of losing the money. The system is in fact encouraged wastefulness. We were glad that our budgeting system in the subsequent years was changed to the block budget according to the number of students enrolled. The university had the opportunity to move the funds to where they were needed. To encourage the managers at the operating level to be entrepreneurial, the budget was further subdivided into smaller sub-blocks. The managers were given complete freedom to use their own funds, subject to the usual control prevailing at the university in order to satisfy the audit committee. We found that our managers exercised more thinking on the use of funds when given this authority. A number of management gurus also advocate mission budgeting. Such budgets give managers the autonomy they need to respond to changing circumstances. Line item budgets fix resources into old patterns. This autonomy not only fosters in responsive manager, it builds morale and unleashes creativity. Next one is innovative personnel policies. I think this is very interesting. Maybe you should think about it. NTU, like many institutions, were initially using fixed number headcount for manpower. It was as rigid as a line item budget system. We found that managers tended to fill the vacancies irrespective of the need of the departments. On the other hand, departments that have expanded their functions had difficulties in getting more positions. When we changed to a block budget, we had the opportunity to revise our personnel policies. The managers were given authority to vary the manpower expenditure portion within the budget allocated. Our experience had been, they have more incentive to exercise their entrepreneurship skills to derive maximum benefit from their budget. Not surprisingly, the total headcount for the university went down. Another important consideration is the flexibility in the remuneration of teaching staff. Because the academic community is a mobile group of professors who would not hesitate to move to another university. We changed our concepts of classification of professors, salary system, promotion, hiring and firing. For the academics, we have to have pay bands with large overlaps. This is to accommodate a compromise between young but brilliant professors and older but more experienced professors. In the academic community, classification of professors is largely dependent on just research capability. On the other hand, the salary is based on his total contribution to the university. A brilliant professor does not necessarily contribute more. We did not adopt a salary scale and salary increment or promotion depends on performance. Recruitment of professors had to be very proactive. We send senior staff all over the world to look out for promising academics. There is no restriction on citizenship. The majority of our professors are on renewable 3 years contract. This allows us to monitor the performance. Next one is the teamwork. From the very beginning, I had emphasized on the need to have a good teamwork within the university. My simple argument was that the university is too large an organization and too complex to be administered by a few. I was glad to learn later from management gurus that traditional leaders centralize control, but entrepreneurial leaders instinctively reach for the decentralized approach. The advantages are: 1. Decentralized institutions are more flexible and can respond quickly to changing circumstances. I will not know as much on any of our programs as the managers dealing day in, day out with the business. If the decisions had to come up the chain of command to me, I had to learn enough to make them, and that would not be quick enough. 2. Decentralized institutions are more innovative than centralized institutions. Management gurus found in their research that innovation does not usually happen because someone at the top has a good blueprint. Often it happens because good ideas filter up from employees who actually do the work and deal with the customers. 3. Decentralized institutions generate higher morale, more commitment and greater productivity. When the leaders entrust managers with important decisions, he signals his respect for them. They are more likely to be committed in their work and therefore higher productivity. This is called an empowerment. Dean Harlan Cleveland of the University of Minnesota said, in the old days when only a few were well educated, leadership of the uninformed was likely to be organized in vertical structures of command and control. Leadership of the informed is different. Collegial, not command structures, become the more natural basis for organization. Entrepreneurial leaders pursue a variety of strategies. They use participatory management to centralize decision making. They encourage a free flow of information. In NTU, we form many committees and have many meetings before making decisions. Although some argue this process is not efficient, it did bring about good teamwork and everyone was kept informed. Shared values and mission take the place of rules and regulations. In achieving success, they are proud to take ownership. Next one is customer-driven institutions. Public institutions do not often use the word customer because the bulk of their funds do not come from their users. So is NTU, which gets 100% funding from development of the university and 75% for recurring expenditure from the government. Yet the reputation of the university depends critically on its customer, which are the students, graduates, members of the public and employers. To me, the most important customer is the employer because modern universities are based on the concept of human resource requirement for the economy and not just learning for learning's sake. Nevertheless, the university has to look after the different interests of its constituents. The standardized service is no longer valid if it is to be customer-driven. Our managers have begun to listen carefully to the customers through customer surveys, focus groups, and a wide variety of other methods. NTU has a requirement of its professors to conduct student surveys at the end of each course to ensure satisfactory teaching and relevant curriculum. Regular surveys are also conducted on employers to gauge the suitability of our graduates. The university also engages in a dialogue with employers through a number of advisory committees. Alumni relationship is taken seriously and a dedicated department has been set up to look after our alumni. All the above are our attempts to listen to customers. Keeping earnings. This is interesting. If managers cannot keep any of the earnings within their departments, they are not likely to pursue them. If we want them to be entrepreneurs, we have to give them incentives to do so. In NTU, we practice the principle, if a department performs a service beyond its requirement, it can keep the earnings. For example, if professors of certain school give courses to a corporation, the earnings after deducting all the expenses could be credited to the school for other use by its own research expenditure. Similarly, research contracts awarded to a particular school would be controlled solely by that school. Those are incentives for them to be more entrepreneurial. The last one is strategic planning. An entrepreneurial organization has to anticipate problems by making decisions based on foresight. It puts in place periodically strategic planning exercises. The main issues are analyze the key factors facing the organization, articulation of the organization's fundamental mission and goals, development of a strategy to realize the mission and goals, development of a timetable for that strategy. NTU had performed 3 major strategic planning exercises in the first 20 years of history. The first was in 1980 when we started. We set out the goals in the first 10 years of existence. The second was in 1990 to plan for the next 10 years. The third was in 1999. We set out the vision and direction of NTU is in the new millennium. Our one shortcoming most organizations fell short of is the measurement and evaluation of progress. At the least, it should be performed before the organization embarks on the next planning exercise. That means you have to look into the outcome before you go to the next exercise. Now, in conclusion, I'd like to end by saying that I had a totally satisfying experience of creating a technological university from scratch using entrepreneurial principles. The result is a solid foundation upon which the university has grown further to a reputable institution. NTU is now ranked within the top 10 university in Asia. Thank you.
Presentation of the plaque and certificate to Professor Cham Tao Soon by Dr. Hen Tao Trao, President of FIA.
Wait first, sorry, I have to cut the queue a bit. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor to read out the citation of Professor Dr. Cham Tao Soon. Professor Cham Tao Soon was... Thank you. Professor Cham Tao Soon was born in Singapore in June 1939.
So 76 now.
And going strong. He entered the University of Malaya in 1960 on a Singapore State Scholarship, graduating with a first-class honours degree in civil engineering in 1964. Professor Cham went to England on a United Kingdom Commonwealth Scholarship and for postgraduate research work at the University of Cambridge and obtained a doctorate in fluid mechanics in 1968. This is the year I was born. He also acquired a degree in mathematics from the University of London. In 1981, when Nanyang Technological Institute (NTI) was formed, Professor Cham was appointed president while remaining as Dean of Engineering at the National University of Singapore until 1983.
2 jobs, 1 salary.
Oh, that's good. He directed the building up of NTI as a technological university with a practice-oriented curriculum. It was named as the best engineering institution in the world by the Commonwealth Engineering Council in 1985. He held the post of president of NTU from 1981 to 2002, and then 2005 to 2014 he was holding the position of Chancellor and Chairman Board of Trustees of SIM University for a period of 9 years. Professor Cham has served on many government bodies, including the Singapore Science Council, the Council of National University of Singapore, the Jurong Town Corporation, and the Land Transport Authority. He was at one time also the chairman of then Construction Industry Development Board, now the Building and Construction Authority of Singapore. Professor Cham also served as member of Council of Presidential Advisors from 2004 to 2010. He has also been active in Singapore business. just like what his lecture has mentioned, entrepreneurship. Bending the rules doesn't mean you don't follow the rules. You work harder, make it better. That I learned from tonight. I want to apply it. He is also active in Singapore business, serving on the boards of major listed companies like Keppel Corporation, United Overseas Bank, and Singapore Press Holdings. Professor Cham was awarded the Public Administration Medal Gold at the National Day Honours in Singapore in 1986 and the Distinguished Service Order in 2003. He also holds the title of Chevalier Order of Academics of Palms. I tried to pronounce the French but I failed. Chevalier des Palmes Academics. I don't know how you pronounce it. But I Googled it and it's a very high honor which started during the Napoleon time. And it's very difficult to get. I just Googled it. From France. A foreign member of the Royal Swedish Academy of Engineering Sciences, a Fellow of Royal Academy of Engineering, United Kingdom, and a Fellow of Academy of Engineering, Singapore. In March 2006, Professor Cham received the first ever International Medal of the Royal Academy of Engineering of the United Kingdom. The award was presented in Singapore by the Academy's Senior Fellow, HRH Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, during his state visit to the Republic. He has also contributed to the development of the professional practice of engineers. Professor Cham, also from 1973 to 1978, was a member of the Professional Engineers Board administering the Professional Engineers Act and qualifying engineers for professional practice. He was a member of the Council of IES Institute of Engineers Singapore from 1975 to 1986, serving as Honorary Secretary, Vice President, President, as well as Past President. Without further ado, I would like to declare that the FIAP has conferred upon the FIAP Engineers Award to Professor Dr. Cham Tao Soon. I would like to invite the President of FIAP, Professor Chua, to hand over the certificate and also the plate. Please, Professor Chua, with the witness of Vice President Dr. John Lee and Past President of FIAP Tan Seng Chuan, or President of IES Chong Ki Seng. Please.
Okay. President of FIAP, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm extremely pleased and humbled to receive this prestigious award. I wish to thank IES for nominating me and for judging panel of FIAP to accept me for the award. As the first born and bred in Singapore Singaporean to receive this recognition, I'm proud to be able to make a Singapore mark among the Asia and Pacific fraternity of engineers. First and foremost, I'm proud to be an engineer. My engineering training has enabled me to perform many tasks, be it finance, business operations, marketing, or general administration. It is the training of a logical mind and problem-solving abilities that give me an edge. When any parent seeks my advice on the future studies of his son or daughter, my typical answer is, unless he's already made up his mind to be a doctor or lawyer, then study engineering. It can open many paths after some years as engineers. In Singapore, you will find many top bankers, top businessmen, and top CEOs are engineers by training. In conclusion, I wish to thank FIAP again for this award. I hope it can serve as an encouragement for some of our young and aspiring students to study engineering. Thank you.